So, welcome students. Welcome and get ready for an awesome ride through the world of essential skills you need to rock your career dreams in this webinar on competencies for success at the workplace. We'll talk about how to ace communication, teamwork, and solve problems like a boss. So let's kickstart this journey together and level up your skills and career game. So without wasting much time, let me introduce Mr. Mussarat Hussain, Suzuki R&D India HR head with over 30 years of expertise in HR strategy and transformation. He's a certified master trainer. He has led initiatives in board management, L&D, and M&A across Indian, American, European, and Japanese MNCs. As a former NHR DN Delhi NCR chapter vice president, CII committee member, and award-winning alumnus, he is a thorough HR professional. Currently serving as honorary president at AAXISS, he is recognized for his impactful contribution for social media influence. Let's welcome this distinguished HR leader. Welcome, Mr. Hussain, to Shoolini's Center for Distance and Online Education, Family and Faculty. Thank you, sir. And in conversation with Mr. Hussain would be Professor Ashish Khosla. Professor Khosla is President and Chief Innovation and Marketing Officer at Shoolini University. He holds an electronics engineering degree from PEC Chandigarh and an MBA from IIM Calcutta. With 25 plus years of experience, global business leadership, he has held senior roles at Citibank, HSBC, and UBN. He is also founder of Shoolini University and managing director of Adu.ai, an AI-powered edtech company and an active angel investor in startups. Welcome, Professor Khosla.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thanks a lot. And good evening, everyone. I would like to start by thanking Mr. Mussarat for being here with us today. Thank you very much, Mr. Mussarat.
No, my pleasure.
And we look forward to this interesting and exciting conversation on this topic, which is so important to all youngsters today. So in our audience, we have students largely, and students who are ready at some point of time or the next year or 2 years to transition from the academic world, the world of jobs. And we all know that over the last 5 years, definitely, what the working environment has drastically changed, particularly over the last 3 to 5 years, both linked to technology as well as the social landscape. The question that comes in, what kind of competencies are important? What are the skills, the abilities, leadership, communication, technical skills students should start to plan for so that they can be successful in their professional lives? And who better to tell us about this than Mr. Mussarat, who has been at the cutting edge both of learning and development and human resources in his career with leading companies in India. Mr. Mussarat, a basic question that students often ask me is, what are these competencies and how are they different from learnings and skills? And that's the first question they typically ask me. So if you could, probably you could start with that and your opinion on this.
Yeah, sure. Actually, what happens is that people generally confuse between competencies and skills and, their functional abilities and all. So let's be very clear. There are two types of abilities which are very, very essential for people. One is their functional capabilities, with how much knowledge or expertise they have in the work. That is one part, which is, of course, you learn on the job, you do courses, you reskill yourself. But there is another part, which is the soft skill part, which is called the competencies. Competencies are nothing but the traits which are observable, measurable, and coachable. And these are essential. These are like DNA of any organization. And people have to actually develop those competencies in them. And competencies are again of two types. Every organization has their core values linked to their vision mission. So the core values are actually core competencies. And then there are managerial competencies, which as per their levels and role, they keep on changing. But the core competencies of the organization will always remain the same because that is required across the organization. Now, the question is, what are these competencies? I mean, what is essential for us? And competencies are very, very dynamic. So, for example, if risk taking is a competency, for example, so risk taking may not be required at a junior level, but at a senior level, definitely it will be required. And then there is a competency, there is a proficiency level, how much it is required. So for an organization, the DNA runs through the competency only. In fact, the entire talent management, career progression, succession planning, hiring, career management, in all these areas and many more, the center of this is competencies. So right from hiring of a candidate, even in internship or recruitment or in career progression, performance management, succession planning, job rotation, you name it, without competency, it cannot be done. So every big corporates, they have their own vision, mission, core values, and they have their competency framework. Competency framework is nothing but a basket of competencies across bands and level, which is very well specified. And people are basically assessed on that. So there are various ways of assessment. I'll go later into that. But essentially, in short, just to tell you is that in an organization, competencies plays a very, very vital and a big role in terms of developing that DNA in that person. And that is not that you come and develop in the organization. Many of the competencies you have to build when you are in school, when you are in college, because those are the competencies or cognitive behavior or personality which the interviewer or assessor would look at you, because when they are hiring you either on the job or whether they are hiring you for internship or anything, because functional capability and competencies questions will be few, but how you answer those is more important than what you answer. What is your body language? How is your eye contact? What is your energy level? How is your communication? All this plays a very, very vital role. Your learnability, that a person, and your adaptability, these are important traits for anyone before they actually onboard into an organization, because companies spends a lot of money on developing people, because what we get is people who are talented, very, very intelligent, and who are onboarded, but they have to be molded as per the requirement of the organization. And that is how they will be able to excel. And everybody cannot excel everywhere. So that is what looking into their competency, uh, and companies actually work a lot on creating a 9 grid matrix. So I'm sure 9 grid matrix is known. It is nothing but, when you are plotting both performance and potential on a template, where you get a kind of a heat map of the organization. So this is in short, which I'll explain more in detail. And before I continue, I'll request that I should be given a sharing right. So I have some PPTs which I
Okay.
would like to share to people and then
Yeah.
explain more on that. So it will be better for them, because many of the terms that I would be using would sound Greek to them. And that's why I need to, because I know they are a student, so I have to keep it as simple as possible. But in short, competencies are the key element for the success of organization and individual. In short, that is what I can tell you.
Thank you, Mr. Mussarat. So, what uh, I understood that you're talking about competencies at different levels of employees, right from the top management to middle management. Most of our students are entry level. They will enter
Yeah, they
into
are entry
jobs.
level basically.
And I understood also that we understood that you say that some of the competencies are things like adaptability and learnability. So, I mean, while we are fixing, I think Ritu or Neeraj are just getting the rights for the sharing. In the meantime, if you
Yeah,
could
I,
just
I
tell
think
us
I
some.
think I have got the sharing right.
Rights
Let
have
You
been
me
got
shared.
it.
just
Yes.
check. Yeah, I think I have
Yeah,
already
he's got
got.
it. Yeah, he's
Okay.
Yeah.
got
So I
everything.
think is it visible now?
Yes, 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 it's
Yes.
visible.
Yes.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's visible
It
now.
is
Okay.
visible.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So now you have on any other question, so then I can spend some time on this and then again take questions.
Yeah, yeah. I think one key question that keeps coming to us, the students, is what are some of the key competencies they should build uh,
Yeah, so
for their
yeah, that's
first.
right. So this is something which I can talk about it, but basically for them to understand what is competency, how it is framed, why it is so important is also very important. Of course, there are competencies which are very generic and will most of the corporates would be looking for it. So I can very well share that also, which is very important, which I just shared, that some
Yes.
of the thing which is very important is a combination of skill and competencies is the communication skill, for example, is the
Yeah.
most vital. Then the some of the basic fundamentals and basic what you call quality of mind, which is the subject that you are, because your interviewer would be looking at your functional capabilities. But in terms of competencies, let me just go to the last of my slide where I've been talking to a lot of students, and this is generally I share with them. Yeah. So these
Okay.
are, this slide is visible.
Yes,
So just to
yes.
answer, and
Yes,
I talked
yes.
about couple of things. So these are the entry level, basically some expectation from intern or people who are joining the organization that they need to have a communication skill. Creativity is something which is very important, and this is one of the creativity and innovation is something which is desired and expected in each one of them. Then there is teamwork and collaboration. Planning and organizing is again another skill, how well you are planned and how well you can organize. Problem solving skills is one of the most important. Initiative and drive, learnability and adaptability, which is what I just talked about. And these are assessed through interviews, situational judgment questions, behavioral event interview. There will be a situation given. Interviewer will ask candidate that please share where you have shown your initiative and drive. And this is where students have to come up with in their internship or any project that they have done where they have taken initiative. In problem solving, there will be all kind of tests or all kind of situation given to the candidates or people where this ability has to be seen, because these are desired competencies in any individual at the entry level, and these are very very critical. And communication skill or creativity and all these things, I mean, one has to excel in these, and these are what companies will look for specifically. But when I say these competencies, these are definitely observable. These are also measurable through various tools and exercises that company does, or through psychometric assessment that companies are doing.
Mm.
And the last part, which is the best part, is that it is coachable. So these are things where people can be developed and through various kind of initiative, training, drive. So these are the things where corporates spend a lot, and lot all their development spend which is done on the employees are focusing on the competencies. So as I said, uh, that these are some of them, and there are many more which I'll share, but these are typically after looking into all the competencies. These are something which is a must, I would say. These are a must.
Mm. Very interesting, Mr. Mussarat. Just one question, and then I think we will request you to start your presentation. Is that in the world of AI and technology, people say the world is changing a lot around us. Everything is changing. Yet when I see these competencies, they seem to be the same as 25 years ago. So what is
Mm.
your opinion? Are competencies changing or?
Yeah. Let me answer this question and see what is happening. You're right. Some of the basic competencies will never change. They will always remain, but newer challenges will bring in newer competencies. Let me answer that. See, when we look at the future of work, the worker and workplace, everything is changing. When I talk about work, there is a human machine collaboration. You come into our plant, Maruti, and you will see high level of automation, robotics, and advanced use of AI, ML, IoT, or you name it, additive technologies and everything it is using. So it is changing the way we are working. And you know, if I talk about the work itself, what is happening because of the adoption of these things, uh, Maruti is able to roll out a car every 12 seconds. So you can imagine the productivity
Yeah.
levels that has been achieved. So it
Yes.
also requires a different kind of mindset of people who are managing that. You can't have a 30-year-old mindset to manage these kind of technological changes which is happening at the workplace. Now, if I look at worker or employee per se, they are also changing. The mindset, the thinking, everything is changing. Uh, we used to talk about theory X, theory Y. Now Gen Z has changed everything. Now the way they behave and the way they look at things at the workplace is totally different. And lastly, when I talk about the workplace itself, it has become hybrid. It has become phygital, means physical and digital. Remote working is happening, and lot many things are happening. So these are certain changes happening. But what is also happening is that there is a mindset change which has happened in a big way. There is a shift, mindset shift. There is a generational shift. There is a technological shift which has happened. So when I talk about this mindset shift, now what has happened? Key many things. When I look at when from the organization perspective, earlier we had a lot of controlling. Today we have a lot of empowering. Earlier we had a lot of privacy. Today we have a lot of what we call transparency in the way we work. So what has happened is that the major shift or change which has happened in the competency framework is during the pandemic. When pandemic happened, the biggest change which has happened in the competency framework is that it was a very challenging situation and the older competencies may not have helped. So what has happened? There are few competencies and it is globally acknowledged. Competencies like resilience and empathy. Nobody used to talk about these as a competency. But today, when we look at managers or people or leaders or employees, everybody should have this resilience and empathy, which is nothing but perseverance, endurance, selfless concern. These are some of the behavioral trait of these competencies which is desired. The second one, which is also very important, is called digital dexterity. Now, what has happened? There is a digital disruption which has happened. We have the entire computer in our hand. Our mobile itself is a smart device, and everybody is expected to be tech savvy. We do digital transaction and things like that. So what we need is a digital dexterity, which is a new competency which has emerged, which is how technologically savvy we are, how we have this non-linear thinking. Until unless we are technologically savvy, we'll not be able to adapt in this new world which is happening. And still we are, if I have to give an example, the mobile phone that we are using, I may be using maybe only 5 or 10% of its potential. And youngsters may be using more, but look at the potential of 100%. So digital dexterity is something which is required. The third competency which emerged during pandemic is called connected leadership. we have been always talking about leadership, leadership, leadership. But then suddenly employees vanish. They were working in network. Nobody knows who is working from where, how is it working, what is the productivity and things like that. So if I have to manage a team which is not sitting in front of me, how do I do that? So I need a connected leadership, which is a competency required at the senior mid managers, people who manage team, which is nothing but how I empower my team, how I am accessible to them, despite we are not sitting in front of each other, how I am keen for result. These are some of the traits which is required. Now, another competency which has emerged very big time is called, now companies are looking for people who have a frugal mindset. Now, frugal mindset is something which is how this person works in constraint, how this person can do more with less. Now, this is a competency which companies are building on because companies do cost cutting budget in pandemic, lot of cost cuts happened. So how to develop people with this frugal mindset that everybody can work when everything is going fine. Anybody can sail in a calm seas, but in a rough sea you need a very skillful sailor who can actually take you out of that storm. In organization, pandemic was like a storm, and you needed that frugal mindset. So how to work in constraint, how to be innovative, how to do more with less. Now, two more competencies which became very important, and we were always talking about it, but this is in a different form. One is called cognitive flexibility. We always assessed cognitive behavior, but when we talk about cognitive flexibility, it is nothing but how to let go of the past. Many people have think, no, 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 we have been able to do this, so we can do this. Not necessarily. You forget about past. What got you here will not take you there. So how to let go of the past belief, how to adapt. So this is nothing but agility. So agility has become a very big time competency, which is cognitive flexibility. And last in the newer baskets of competencies is called pragmatic orientation. And pragmatic orientation is nothing but how this person acts fast and iterate faster. How is he resourceful? So these are newer competencies which only emerged after 2020. Nobody talked about these competencies 10 years, 20 years, 30 years back. So these are a kind of a common set of competencies which all globally acknowledged, and large MNCs are actually adopting this, and this is nothing but the outcome of the pandemic and the digital disruption which is actually happening very, very fast. So this, I hope, answers my question, Khoslaji.
Yes, Mr. Mussarat, thank you very much. We have a few questions, but before we come to that, maybe we can have your presentation or your core ideas.
I'll try to keep my presentation just to keep the perspective why it is important and how companies are actually adopting this. So I'll run it quickly and then take questions.
Yeah.
So let me go back now, and I'll not go into so much of depth now, but still let me share something. So I'll start with the saying why people have become important. And when we say people have become important, their capabilities, competencies, all are actually behind this. So look at what Bill Gates said long back. Take our 20 best people and virtually overnight we become a mediocre company. By taking people, what does he mean? People means their capability, their competencies. So look at how competency and capability is so important. Alfred Sloan talked about, he says, take my assets, leave my people, and in 5 years I'll have it all back. It's a very powerful statement. When you say leave my people means people who are capable, who have the right kind of skills, competencies, and abilities. Similarly, Dick Brown, chairman of and CEO of EDS, long back. He said numbers are just the end result. You change a business by changing the behavior of its people. And behavior is what? Set of behaviors are nothing but competencies only. So these are powerful statements. And this is another connotation where we say that if you have right kind of people in the company and you create right great managers, they will create happy employees who will create happy customer, and that has direct correlation to profitability and your creating shareholder value. So if people are being managed well, then the any superior business performance can be influenced. So investment people, that's why companies say that people are their assets. So this is another very important paradigm that I wanted to share. And again, as I said, let me reiterate, competencies are skills and abilities described in behavioral terms that are coachable, observable, measurable, and critical to the success of the organization and individual, which I stated in the beginning. And it is nothing but the piece of puzzle that form a common language about success of the organization. So every organization will create their own competency framework, and how they do it is what I'll just quickly run through. So I'll leave this. Yeah, so I talked about how it is related competencies right from selection and staffing to performance to training development, work design, reward, succession planning, job rotation, everywhere competencies are going to be used. So it will be too much for the student now. But what happens is that in an organization, the competency framework, how it is created is this is the steps. So every company will have a vision mission statement, and they do it earlier it used to be done every 15 years. Now it is done maybe 5 years and 10 years. So once a vision and mission statements are designed, then our core value is also flowing out of it. Then business strategy is decided, which is 3 year, 5 year, 10 year strategy. Then there is a strategic objectives for 1 year to 3 years. Then to achieve those, what are the organizational capabilities and skills needed? And that is how competency will funnel out. And these competencies are then proficiency levels are given, ratings are given, and then role-based model is created. So it's a very scientific process done by most of the big corporates, and it is not that easy to do it. Normally, they involve big five consultants, PwC, EY, McKinsey, Accenture, you name it, Deloitte, EY, all of them work on these and help companies establish this. So vision and mission, once it is established, it will remain for 5 to 10 years. But business strategy may keep on changing depending on the market. But competencies, by and large, once this framework is decided, competencies framework is created. So the proficiency or role may require higher or level proficiency or different competency, but by and large, basket remains the same, and newer competencies are added every year. So this is a typical vision statement of a company which I worked for maybe 25-30 years back. So they were into graphite electrode, and they said they want to become a globally acknowledged top league player in graphite and allied business with commitment to growth, innovation, quality, and customer focus. Similarly, they had mission. Now, out of this, they created this business strategy by what? Top management will brainstorm. There will be a strategy session, and every company does that. Business meet, then they will plan for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. Then in this company, when this strategic meet happened, just to give a small feel that strategic business objective was to increase revenue or reduce cost, increase operating margin, achieve operational excellence, offer superior service and customer focus. So now taking this into account, what happens is that how do you increase revenue? Then it is a brainstorming that how can I increase revenue or reduce cost or so on and so forth. So this is an exercise helped by consultants and all the key people are involved. So for example, I say that increase revenue. So they say become the dominant supplier or capture new client and so on and so forth. These are all done through a very, very sustained exercise. But just to give an example, to become a dominant supplier of, say, for example, electrode, what they have to do, what are the operational capabilities required, what are the skills needed. So this is how it cascades. So innovation, partnership, relationship, customer, all this will flow out of it. So this is a typical process which every company follows. And then, this is then bucketed and then, a lot of deliberations happens and then finally basis the brainstorming and all kind of Pareto analysis and things like that. This company zeroed down on say these 7, 8 competencies, right? And this will then flow into the competency framework with proficiency level that okay, this role, for example, innovation is a role, and and then there are 4 levels: basic level, which is learner to expert. So they are categorized like that. So for example, this kind of paper is prepared for each critical role. That say, for example, innovation. So if somebody is in a design role, so and he is on a particular level, so innovation will be 3 or 4 level. But innovation for somebody in security will be at 1 level, even if he is general manager. So he will not be required to be innovative. But then there are various other competencies in which maybe perhaps they will be required to be more. So this kind of matrix is created in which when assessment center or development center or 360-degree or various other kind of exercises done in the organization, then it is mapped. So you know desired versus actual and you see the gap. And that's how it helps in developing people in career progression, because in a particular role, this is the required proficiency level and this person doesn't meet. So they will not grow or they will not be promoted or they will not be put into that role because this is the minimum requirement. So this is something other than knowledge and skills. This is something which is required. And say, for example, Maruti, they have this vision, core values, and their core values are nothing but core competency, which is networking, partnership, fast, flexible, first mover, openness, learning, innovation, and creativity, customer obsession. So every company, go to any company's site, you will get their vision, core values, mission listed. So you can understand these are nothing but competencies only. So say Maruti has a vision of 4 million sales by 2030. How do you achieve that? So you have to do lots many things. So that similar kind of exercise happens where you brainstorm that, okay, then you have to put capacities, you have to create market, you have to have variants, you have to have innovative product solutions, service network, you have to have sales network. So all this is very, very important for any company. So it flows from vision statement, flows from vision statement. And similarly, this is the competency framework of Maruti, for example. So you can see that core values and core competencies are almost same across bands and level. But managerial competencies are, differing from band to band, level to level. So this just to give a glimpse, I don't want to confuse, but what happens in companies is that basis the competency framework, they run assessment or development center, which is they use multiple tool, multiple assessors. These are done online also. You have psychometric, you have business caselet, you have in basket, you have SJT. You can have various kind of assessment which is combined and put into a score. This is a very big investment done by companies. It is just like a health checkup. When you go for an annual health checkup, you are assessed on various parameter of health, even your blood samples. So there is a standard value. For example, it says your BP should be, within this range 80, 120, for example, which is the desired level. Now your BP is say 160 by 100. So then it is out of range. Then the doctor prescribes that you have to control. Similarly in sugar, similarly in many things. These are similar things. When in an organization you find that these are not meeting the desired standard, then corrective actions or interventions are done in the organization. And it's a huge investment because at the center of everything is people. People can make or break the organization. So that is one. And of course, I'll not talk about these, but if I talk about organizations, practically all the organization have assessment development center, they have proficiency levels, and you can just simply check so whether it is auto, non-auto, service, or any companies. Every company will have this, so need not go there. But there is, what are the process? One is assessment center, development center. Another is 360-degree, which is nothing but taking feedback on competencies by superior, subordinate, by peer. uh, so this is again a very big tool used in the organization, and it is practically done online. Then what happens with the outcome? So your performance is assessed every year. There is a KRA setting, and there is a mid review, there is an annual review. Every company does it, every institution does it. And I'm sure in educational institution also, performance management is the thing which is being done. Now what happens is that on one hand, there is a performance outcome. So for a 3 year kind of a weighted average is taken for performance. And then when potential assessment or a competency assessment is done, it is also mapped. So all the people are put in this grid accordingly where they are placed. So you can see top three grids are people who are actually fast mover in the organization, and how you treat them, what kind of job you give them, what kind of training investment to be done on them will be different than people who are laggards or base contributors. In GE, in fact, the last quadrant that you see, last box, they take out 5% of people every year. They just push them out of the organization because they are not meeting the potential performance parameters of the organization, and they don't want to spend on that. So your investment on people will be people who are actually solid contributor or stars or workhorse, and they will try to move them from one grid to another, so that, and this is the heat map which talks about what is your positioning of people in the organization. So for example, you will have names of all the people coming in, what percentage of people are where, what will be your talent strategy. So this is very important in any organization. And as I said, uh, again I am telling that the outcome of this is largely used for career planning, promotion, uh, for incentive, because your hypos have to be given higher incentives. So it helps. In fact, these are competencies, as I said, has linkages to all the HR processes, and they are at the center, they are at the core. Now, I have already talked about newer competencies during pandemic, which I was asked, so I'll not repeat. But as I said, some of the other traditional competencies which has not changed for last 30, 40, 50 years are like teamwork, decision making, result orientation, problem solving. These will always evergreen competencies, which will always be required. And as I said, corporate expectation from freshers is, again, I am reiterating, communication skill, creativity, teamwork, collaboration, planning, organizing, problem solving, initiative and drive, learnability. So these are what is required, and you can check many of these through psychometric tool which are available. Some of the assessments is also done where you stand on these, but these are largely observed, and these are very easy to assess in people. It's not much of a challenge. So this is what I have as far as my presentation is concerned. But now I can take questions because I have 20 minutes, 25 minutes with me. So I can take as many questions as possible.
Before you do that, first let me thank you for this very insightful presentation. It was just the right mix of theory and the experience that you bring in towards competencies. Typically, competencies, students, is very difficult to decipher coming from outside. It looks like a black
Yeah,
box.
yeah. True, very true.
So, having worked in an organization, one day somebody told me you're a hypo. I had no clue, and people had no clue what is happening.
Where you are. So now you can understand where you are in the box.
No, I knew, but internally I knew, but nobody knew why. So it's like a surprise.
Very true, very true, very true.
So, okay, I have one question which is quite interesting to Dr. Pooja, and she says very heartening to know that competencies can be learned and coached.
Yes, yes.
But she's wondering what
That's
is
the
the
best
role of,
part.
yeah, so she's wondering what is the role of formal education. I mean, as a professor of management, what can she do? And she herself is an HR professional, but what can professional teachers do formally in terms of formal education to help students develop their uh, competency levels?
Yeah, let me because I am associated with many colleges and
Okay.
many institutions.
Yes.
See, first and foremost, the role of a management institution is to create fundamentals. You have to create fundamentals, and fundamental has to be very strong. That is very important. Number one. Number two, how they can help is that the faculties are observing people in the class. So you can see teamwork. There are projects which are given together, and there are various other aspects which I said is very critical, that how to go about in that. So what teachers can do is actually help them get some psychometric personality assessment done, which is through open tool, uh, and help them. People should know their blind spot. The problem is that the students do not have knowledge about some of the cognitive behaviors or personality factors which they are going through. So in their build up to the campus or other things, institutes can help people get assessed on some of the psychometric tools which are very easily available. Free tools are available, and tell students that this is your scorecard and this is where you have to work. At least they should be aware that these are their gray areas. They don't know their blind spot. They don't know. And there are tools and ways and methods. So normally in the institution, people are not focusing much on these. It is just left to the student or the community itself that you manage it. That is the situation.
Okay. So, nice to know. In fact, some of our students are actually from the internet, rather the online MBA and online BBA course as well. So I
Okay.
think also wondering, whether they can get access to some psychometric tools, and I'm sure our teachers can dig out a few tools. But if you have any recommendations, Mr. Mussarat, we can kind of share it with
See,
them. Otherwise, we can.
no, I'll tell you what is happening is that, there are a lot of companies like Co-Cubes of Aeon or VBox or
Yes.
I'm forgetting the name of many new age companies, or like Jombe, for example. So you can get in touch with them. They do assessment for they do assessment for a lot of companies and for youngsters. So what they have to do is nothing but they can assess your student, and the cost is hardly 100 200 rupees. They will give the report because they are the one who are actually going to do the assessment of your students when campus hiring is happening. So you better talk to them. They can help.
Yeah.
Companies like Jombe, they are very cheap. 200 300 rupees for the entire assessment online. You get a good report. Students will know.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, surely we should do that. One more question, interestingly, from a student. He's saying, "Sir, you have talked about so many competencies,
Yeah.
and 7 competencies for interns, but also for leadership. You gave us many internships. So, in your mind, he's asking, what are the top 3 competencies that he should develop as a management student to get his entry level role?
Topmost would be communication skills
Mhm.
because this is what matters.
Yeah.
The person should be able to communicate. The second is, their creativity is very important because what kind of answer you are giving to the questioner is important, how creative you are. So this matters. And the third one, which is also very important, is uh, where we judge quality of mind is that other than creativity, I mean, how uh, innovative or problem solving abilities that person has. So the interviewer will throw a question and try to see how this person thinks around that. So these are something which is very important, and
Mm.
uh, these are the exercises which the placement, placecom and all can organize for people. There are people who come from corporate, help and guide them. There are internal psychologists or behavior analysis who come and help assess people. So I think this should be fundamental to any
Yeah.
college or institution because today it is the requirement and it cannot be just ignored like that.
Mm. Very interesting that you say that, Mr. Mussarat, because we actually run a course on creativity and it's compulsory for our management students. And I've walked in a few classes, and I've particularly the first class. Often the students are asking, "Why is this course on creativity?" Even in my MBA class, and the teacher then explains why it's amongst the more important skills to
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah. True, true, true.
And communication skills is actually a very difficult thing to improve. For students, I hope you're listening. You have to start and try to improve it from day one. I can tell you that it's like swimming. If you want to be a world champion swimmer, you can't one day swim for 24 hours. I mean, you'd rather go and swim half an hour for 48 days to improve. So it's something that happens over a period of time. Do you think that's true, Mr. Sarat? These competencies take a long time to develop, or is it a short burst of focus?
No, see, there are some of the competencies which are actually very hardwired. Some
Yeah.
of the competencies very difficult and to acquire in a short
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
But with persistence, it can be overcome. Say, for example, when you talk about, say, Air Force or something like that, or defense, so they
Yes.
also do assessment of competencies. And one of the competencies is, where they look at the fear factor of the people, though it is very abstract, very difficult to measure, but can be observed. So
Yeah.
what happens is that
Mm.
somebody has to jump from a plane on a parachute first time or things like that. So everybody will have that fear, and nobody is born that he can jump. But with practice, with several practice, they become an expert on that. So
Mm.
that's why with practice you can overcome that. Oh, there is an ad which says na, that डर के आगे जीत है. So how you overcome that? So fear of fire, fear of height,
Mm.
fear of water, everything will be there in people. These are hardwired, but people can overcome that.
Yeah.
People have fear of water, but they learn swimming. So they
Yes.
overcome that. So this is how, when I talk about the actual competencies at workplace, they may look difficult. They may look very, very, different initially, but it can be mastered. It can be mastered.
तो एक क्वेश्चन और है आपने बोला कि you obviously the role of management is to create fundamentals, and the second is to of course improve the competence.
Yeah,
So
their
students are going to like,
capabilities, overall personality and capability. It is the institute should shape them like that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so the idea is that students should know कि both of them are important, and that's where it's not only rote or learning or knowledge. ये question है, which is more important for me? Is it creating the fundamentals of management or getting competencies? What do you think is more
Both,
important? आपसे पूछते
both.
हैं.
If you have very good competency, but fundamentally you are zero, it's again negates. So it is what I say. These are two things you can, I name it differently. One is called aptitude and the other one is called attitude, right? you have to balance between both. So if you don't have the fundamental, but you are very disciplined, you have very good competencies, it doesn't work. And similarly, if you are very intelligent, very sharp, fundamentals are very sound, but your attitude, your behavior, your personality factors are very, very poor, you will not go far in life. You will be checkmated anytime. And you have to balance. So people generally who grow in their career, make a very good career, reach to a very, very significant position, are people who are able to balance between these two. They will go hand in hand. They will go hand in hand.
Yes, yes, yes. Great, great. Ritu, there are a few questions. I can't view them. Can you look at them? Have you already looked?
So there is a question which says, what is that one core competency that modern era's HR must have or learn to ace in the organizational setup?
I have already said that, no need to repeat. In HR, you have to have a good communication skill, let me tell you. You cannot be a good HR person if your communication is hopeless. If you can't articulate, can't talk to people, can't talk to union, can't talk to top management, you're gone. Communication has to be fundamental, let me tell you. Then comes any other competencies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions? I think that's it in the chat box.
Okay, okay. Okay. One more question that we already had prior to this was that, people know that competencies are there sometimes, like communication skills or teamwork, maybe leaderships skills. And this is a student saying, but then what is stopping them from, what are the problems they face in terms of developing these? Why can't they develop these? So
no, they don't know. Actually, people don't know. The problem is they don't know.
Okay.
There is no report which tells them that you have this problem. So you have to have this reported, recorded. Then only they will know that, okay, this. See, you will always give a report sheet or a mark sheet for subject. That in subject A or B or C, this was the maximum mark, this is what you scored, right? But in terms of competencies, other abilities, you don't score. In fact, schools have started scoring. I have seen report card of kids where on the personality and other attributes, they are actually observing and noting it down, telling to parents. So schools have actually started doing it now, though late, but obviously it will help the future generation.
You're very right, Mr. Mussarat. In fact, Professor Tarun here is a coach and he has started coaching school students to start with. Tarun, you have a question for Mr. Mussarat?
Yeah, Mr. Mussarat, good evening and very interesting session. So I've done many assessments. So I am particularly inquisitive about the empathy factor. While I've been doing assessments, so many times emotional quotient. So we wherever there are employees, so we tend to measure the empathy factors, which has emotional quotient, stability, awareness. There are many things. So my question to you is whether how you first of all balance between empathy and mirror and match concept. This is one. And second, basis the empathy factor, how do you ensure that this particular employee needs to be retained, or what are the steps which we take to take care of the employee?
See, let me tell you, when assessment center or development center is run, you get different kind of scores, right? And if say 36,000 employees are there and you have done say online hybrid kind of assessment. So when I talk about 9 grid per se, right? So first of all, we'll filter out where to focus, where not to focus, right? Everywhere we are not going to focus because those some of the people would be on the IDPs, which is called individual development plan, which company or training will help them design that and map that. But there will be a group of people who fall in the top 3 or top 4 quadrant where company will be actually planning group intervention, individual intervention, coaching intervention, group coaching intervention, maybe stint at global B schools, or maybe a job rotation, or maybe some very vital projects. So what happens is that we don't look at one odd competency or anything. It's a holistic, like for example, we'll do a Pareto analysis. We'll see at this level which are the top three competencies which is emerging, and which are the bottom three which is emerging. So we'll
Right.
focus on bottom two or bottom three, that how we elevate that. So that is where the focus lies, but it is not individual. Like I look at only empathy, then the organization cannot be run. You can imagine 36,000, or for example, TCS, they have a 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh people. How do you do that? So you zero down on what competency, or what we create a competency index for the organization. So taking into account all the competency score, there is a aggregated index which is created. What we try to see is that how the index is moving year on year, or every 2 year you are doing this exercise. Now it is being done every year. So you try to see that how the index is moving upward, or how improvement is happening. It is a very challenging thing, but the major focus is on hypos and those people, because they are the one who are driving the organization. So organization will do everything possible to ensure that they have on the job focus, on the job, they get good projects. They that's where we want to spend, so that's the investment where we'll get return. I'll not like to invest where I'm not going to get return. So it is not for people who are in the bottom quadrant. If I start spending on their training and development, it is nothing but meeting, eating, and forgetting. So why waste money on them? So let them be happy what they are doing, because many companies will not throw them out, because in a bell curve of quality of work, not all work is very, very superior. There are also inferior work or repetitive work. Who will do that? A person who is a hypo will never do a repetitive work. Otherwise, he will resign. So we have to balance through this heat map who will do what. So there are people who will be happy doing repetitive work, but it is required. It is not a very value adding work. It's a non-value add, but it is required in the organization. So they are happy doing that. So you need all kind of people, but the percentage of people who have to be solid performer, or your hypos and all, has to be higher percentage. You can't have more than 5% of people who are in the bottom grade. If you have that, then your organization is in trouble. As simple as that.
Okay. Right, Mr. Mussarat, I think we are through with time, so thank you very much. But a question किसी ने लिखा है, not linked to our topic at all, but he's got 4-5 likes, तो वो मैं पूछ लेता हूँ. पूछ रहे हैं आपसे.
हाँ, पूछिए.
Which management stream is most oriented towards success in your opinion? Which companies are wanting these days? So आपका क्या opinion है इसके बारे में?
This is a wrong question actually. You can excel in any stream. Yes. You can excel. There is no top or bottom. So people are making career in all these streams. So it is my mindset or my flair. I may be good in finance, so I may do financial management. I may be good in people management, so I may do HR. I am very much interested in international business, so I go for international trade. So this is something, and in every field people excel. There is no field that people don't excel or not or excel.
Perfect. Let me add to that, students. I think Rohit has asked this question. I think you should see what is your interest. You should see what is your strengths, and you see a fit of these two. Everything can take you to the top. We actually have a CEO from India who's an HR professional.
Yeah.
Right? Of a worldwide company, right? So you have CEOs from IT, you have CEOs for finance, marketing, sales, हर जगह से. So you have to decide your area and excel in that. जो भी आप area करते हो, उसकी competencies अलग होंगी. So that is something that Mr. Mussarat has defined for us today. So thank you once again, sir. We understand.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're spending an hour of your very valuable time with us and our students, and we are truly grateful for that.
No, pleasure. And I wish all the students the very best in their education and career, and all the very best. And good night. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Mr. Hussain. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. So this is
Okay.
the end of the session, our session. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.